reported by newspapers headline around the globe. And we come back to discuss what has been making news, the major stories with a panelist on set. And of course, I'm not alone on set. I am here with a gentleman who is here today to buttress on pertinent issues concerning the world at large and the African continent in particular. He is no one else but Mr. Mutaga Silvanus Tifo, who is a jurist and of course a political advisor. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Madame Ebe, for inviting me. It's my first time here in your studio. Permit me use this opportunity to greet the millions of televiewers of this program, your maiden edition, as you told me, and equally to greet the millions of sympathizers and militants of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement. Professor Maurice Kamto, who is the flag bearer of the party and the candidate of the Political Alliance for Change, will be in France on the 31st of May 2025 to fellowship, communion with the diaspora, because it will be his very last before the presidential elections that are geared for October 2025.
All right, so how was your weekend like?
My weekend was quite very splendid. I had the opportunity to fellowship with a neighboring tribe, that's the Bamesing, because I'm from Batibo, and I had to enjoy their culture in one of the gatherings here in the nation's political capital of Douala.
Wow, that's what makes Cameroon a beautiful place. You know, we have cultural diversity, and it's very important when you're invited to nothing but honor the rendezvous. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are diving straight into Well in Print today. We are starting with newspapers from the Federal Republic of Nigeria, where they say different headlines dominated newspapers' pages over the weekend in Nigeria. The Punch headlines: federal government to sell houses to low and middle income Nigerians. Reptile venom as estate expert doubts government plan. While the Vanguard newspaper on its end captions Tinubu at midterm, who are the people government is satisfying, dreams of 2023 now nightmares of 2025, and three things the president must do now. Away from Nigeria, let's move over to the United Kingdom with the Independent newspaper capturing market turmoil as Donald Trump threatens to reignite trade war. The paper reports that the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, says he will slap 50% tariff on EU goods for this week as he complains talks with Brussels going nowhere, and wants Apple of 25% import levels unless it moves iPhone factories to the United States of America. From one paper to another, ladies and gentlemen, we move over to Cameroon with the Guardian Post newspaper carrying as major caption: 2025 presidential elections, PCRN holds Congress at last. Invest Cabral Libi, party flag bearer, dreams to hand beer first defeat in major polls, says country needs total overhaul. While Cameroon Insider on its part headlines: presidential support eases 2025 Hajj. The paper carries that the first 350 Cameroonians Muslim pilgrims left the Gara International Airport Tuesday, May 22nd, en route to Saudi Arabia for the annual pilgrimage. The paper tells us that each of these pilgrimages and over 4,000 also who left later on have received 350,000 francs as part of presidential support to ease their travel. Ladies and gentlemen, let's run up with the Herald Tribune front page reading: 2025 presidential elections. Critics outlines 100 reasons why Biya should step down. Well, this is how we saw it on Well in Print. Now, after the jingle, we are going to dive into analysis with our man on the beat. Yes, so Mr. Tifo, once more you're welcome on set today. It's been a privilege to have you on our very first edition of this broadcast on the Pan-African Television, and we have to dive into analysis right away. You followed the review with me, so I want us to start like the review started with Nigeria. So let's start it with Nigeria. I want us to go look at the first newspaper, which is the Punch newspaper, where the government is announcing to, sell houses to low and medium income earners, and yet housing estates are doubting the plan. Why is it that in Africa, most often where government says something, there is a tendency for people to doubt what they have said?
Madam Ebe, you will bear in mind with me that we are in a continent that the government that are in place have always got themselves accustomed with propagandas and all the like, and they have never built that trust in the minds of the people by the mere fact that they say things which they can't match with actions. But like it is, I would like to say there are countries in Africa that such exceptions do exist, because if you look at the countries which have been enjoying democracy, you find that it's not just a myth, but at least the institutions in place have been working to ensure that they certify the people through the giving them the opportunity to sanction those who are not able to deliver the goods. Because in a country where there is democracy, you find that the presidents who come up, they know that if they cannot deliver the goods during the next upcoming elections, they will be voted out. So Nigeria is such a country that we've seen practical democracy, and I'm quite certain that the promises which have been made to build low-cost houses for
to sell, the houses are already built.
Yeah, they have been built to be sold to the low-income earners and middle
income earners.
Income earners is not just a propaganda. I think that when the government does so, they have a time frame in which that has to be done. It's only after the time frame that we will have to judge them to see if they actually meant what they were saying, or it was just a mere political propaganda.
All right, it seems like in Africa we are used to political propagandas, reason why when these people say things, there is tendency for people to doubt. We remain in Nigeria, ladies and gentlemen. Now we should look at the Vanguard, the headline of the Vanguard newspaper. We started with the Punch. They're asking the question, who government is satisfying? The people are lamenting that the dreams of 2023 are now the nightmares of 2025. Do you buy that idea?
Madam Ebe, you would concord with me that the people always expect a lot from the government, especially in most African economies where you see that it is civil servant oriented. The government has not done enough to encourage private sector investment. You find that at times natural resources and even foreign investment is not piloted in such a way that companies are created in areas where you find people gainfully employed into the companies. So with all these let me say bad policies which are put in place by governments in Africa, you understand that the people will hardly be satisfied, because they expect that the government should manage the natural resources in such a way that it will satisfy their aspirations, their demands, their needs. They will expect them to pilot foreign investment, especially into zones which would permit the people to be concentrated there instead of leaving to go into the already overcrowded areas. They will want that the government should encourage private sector investment by granting loans to people who have business, they have investment projects, because
and limit and low how do you say, interest rates.
Yes, at low interest rate, they give them loans that can permit people, especially university graduates, especially those who have gotten certain formal drill in order to enable them create their own companies. When that is lacking, you find that it is going to cause a lot of frustration in the minds of the people. And then lastly, you see, people want to enjoy a certain economic nationalism. When they see foreign investors, like you find in most African countries, you have the telecommunications companies which come in and then they exploit the citizens, and then with tax policies which are even injected through the mobile telephone companies and other like. You see, the suffering is enormous on the people. And when you go to the road infrastructures and the road infrastructures, you find that road infrastructures are lacking. They are dilapidated, in poor condition. There is potable water that is lacking. The hospitals, our schools, buildings are lacking. Teachers are leaving. With all this, the Africans will continue crying that their governments are not delivering. Don't forget, these governments are not delivering because most often they are not directly accountable to the people, because there is still imperialism. Don't forget, there's still imperialism. They think that they have to satisfy the interests of the expatriates, those who come in, so as to remain in power.
They forget their own
They
people.
forget their people. That's the more reason you find that if I have to go to the case of Libya in the times of Gaddafi, you understand that it is true Africa has been working for the advancement of democracy, but in certain economies you find that the democracy is not really working. And when the people tend to have a leader at the helm of their government or of the nation who is delivering, liberties are stifled. Liberties are stifled, the people choked up, and then they tend to want liberties, certain freedoms, and then by so doing, they open a door to the West. Excuse me, I'm not stigmatizing the West, but you forget that, you will not forget that the West have always dealt with capitalism. They want to come in, especially when they want to secure their interests. So Africans will have to understand that when they have a leader that is delivering, they have everything. They must do everything possible to give their support to the leader in order to maintain that leader in place, but not at the detriment of democracy.
You know, Mr. Tifu, we are still here. We've been talking. Okay, we are moving away from Nigeria. I want us to follow the papers the way they came. Now, let us go to the United Kingdom, where the Independent newspaper is saying there is market turmoil. You know that the president of the United States of America is ready to slam 50%, you know, to reignite the tax, and this one is causing like panic in countries. It's true that the United Kingdom is no longer in the European Union, but it's causing panic in countries, nations that are, of course, in the European Union. And there is another place where they say Trump is threatening owners of iPhone company of 25% increase as import level, whereas until, if not, they have to bring the iPhone factories to the United States of America. Is that rational enough?
During Trump's first tenure of office, you realize that Trump had to make America great again by producing about 9 American billionaires. And if you go into American history, you find that America has debts of about $37.6 trillion, which is hanging on them as a result of their former policy, which they used to intervene in countries, maybe cause wars and other like, with the tendency of making the world safe for democracy.
Yeah.
So Trump has come up, and you know, Trump, by his intellectual wiring, is an economist, a businessman.
Yes.
And he thinks that he should negotiate the best for the American people. And by so doing, he wants to renegotiate, especially some of those conventional business deals that they used to have. Now, with the UK, which is not part of the European Union, it's going to stifle strained relationship between UK and the United States of America. Now, it will depend now on exactly what the United Kingdom stand to gain if Trump would impose this, because don't forget, in politics, it's commonly said politicians use words to hide their intentions. So would we ask ourselves, is Trump really willing to slam 50% tax increment on UK
EU goods?
Yes, EU goods. Yeah, is he really wanting to do so, or he's just in a let me say, in a diplomatic communication, because we know that there had been similar strides which he has done already on China, and the China had to succumb to what Donald Trump wanted from them to do, and the same was done to India, and India had to succumb. So UK and the European Union enjoy strong ties with the United States of America. So let us wait. We lose nothing waiting to see if this will eventually take place.
Yeah, because they say that has supposed to go operational as today. Remember that we are cruising some of the papers that came out yesterday, what made news yesterday over the weekend. And now I've seen Nigeria, I've seen the United Kingdom. Let's visit Cameroon. Caption of the Guardian Post newspaper that talks of 2025 presidential elections with the PCRN party that had its Congress and of course gave their blessings for Cabral Libi to stand as candidate. I know you are an advisor for what's the party again?
Yes, I'm the special advisor to Professor Maurice Kamto. He's the flag bearer of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement and the Political Alliance for Change for the 2025 presidential elections. The
CRM party. Yes. Now I want us to focus on the headline of the Guardian Post newspaper. I want us to look at it in the position of giving the flagship to a youth. Do you see hope? Do you see this as a sign of hope for Cameroonians in the upcoming elections?
Madam Ebe, I'm just in my early 40s. I think I'm a youth, and I can understand the frustration that many of those youths who are outside they have as a result of the fact that the incumbent president is an octogenarian, is about 90 years and above.
92.
92. But then we wouldn't forget that President Paul Biya took over from President Madu Ayejo when he was still a youth.
Yeah.
Yes, he was still a youth. And if you want to judge from the fact that a youth at his age took over from President Madu Ayejo, and you want to look at the legacy which such a youth has left for this nation, you understand that it is quite catastrophic. So I don't think that a youth is a program. Youth isn't a program. Though youthfulness will mean that they may have the physical capability, the ability maybe to talk crisscross the country, especially maybe to have physical contact with the
grassroots.
The grassroots. It would mean that the youth will be having that mental capacity, especially with the new trend of technology, maybe to do research and manage many of those ramifications that are plaguing our world. But then, if we were to talk on my own candidate, who is Professor Maurice Kamto, that we know for certain is university done, and a diplomat for that matter, he's one of the Africans, rare Africans that sits at the International Curatorium of the International Court of Justice. I will tell you that Professor Maurice Kamto physically and intellectually, diplomatically, is quite fit for the post of President of the Republic come October 2025. So now, lending some credence to what the newspaper just said with regards to the endorsement of a youthful candidate,
45
for the 2025 presidential election, I will say kudos to him, and I only wish him well. And I think that one of those things that really kept me aghast all through this month is the demagogy which I witnessed being exercised by most of those we have always looked up to them as the intellectual class. I realize that most of them don't want to leave a tangible legacy for posterity. They have decided to sacrifice their academic integrity on the altar of political opportunism. What do I mean? You find that if you go to what they have been talking of, the imposed mandate as regard to Article 15 of the Constitution of the nation, most of them have not been willing to interpret it well. And even if they were to interpret, some of them who do not even possess such expertise to talk on it, just want to be devil to dive into it, maybe for the purpose of mental quackery. So like it is, what I will say is the youths should know that Cameroon in 2025 is not just a matter of youth, it's a matter of who has what it takes to take this country from the abyss where we are and to lead us to the mountains or to the top where we can see light. And Professor Maurice Kamto has it, no matter his age. We have seen his strides. During the 2018 presidential elections, I was in prison with him. Let me tell you, I spent 2 years, 3 months, 19 days in prison. I came out and I saw in him a man that has been very determined to take this country forward.
All right. Permit me to tilt a bit from today's caption of the Guardian Post newspaper. But since we are talking elections, I think I'm still in the context. Let's look at Cameroon. Come October 2025, we have presidential elections. Everybody is hoping there's going to be a change. What do you have to say about the issue of voter apathy in Cameroon? Because as it stands, many youth are not even willing to enroll. Talk less of going to register. It's like routine. They think the routine is going to take place. How can we salvage the situation?
Madam Ebe, if we were to be very objective with you, I will beg with you to differ a little bit, because
of course
I've been in the streets, I've been in the field since 2023.
Okay.
With the CRM mobile team mobilizing Cameroonians to get registered on the electoral list. I will tell you that the youths are more than ever determined for change. Where there's been a very acute problem is with the electoral body, ELECAM, that at a certain point allowed itself to be bedeviled by the utterances of certain ministers who came in just to dissuade or maybe to distract them from the prime objective which they fixed, because ELECAM used to be in the streets and at the doors of churches even on Sunday, yes, to facilitate the process of registration. Don't forget that the youth in Cameroon, they are living in abject poverty. There is a statistic that shows that by the year 2026, over 8 million youths would be dying of starvation. And the youth know for certain that they have to do something. And by doing something, they have to have the weapon which is necessary for them to effect the change, and it is their voters' card. So where we have an acute problem is in the 2 English-speaking regions of Cameroon, because I was in Maïmen, I was in Bacho, I was in Manfé, and from there I went to Kendem, Mbeme, crossed to Widikum, Batibo.
You went through the Manu division.
Yes, I tried to sample a good number of youths who are there. They are more than willing to get registered, but like I told you, ELECAM offices are locked, and sometimes they are caught between the Red Sea and the devil. They are afraid because, you know, the separatists, some of them don't want anyone to be identified with the Republic of Cameroon. They want to say they are already of their own republic.
And they impose.
With this, you see that there is pressure on the ordinary youths who want change and who think they still belong to the nation Cameroon. So, like I told, there isn't that voters apathy any longer. Remember, when you know you have a problem, you obviously will be looking for a solution to it. The CRM has been educating the youths on the strategy to be employed during 2025, that of going to get registered massively, that of voting, that of watching to ensure that their votes are not stolen, and that of defending the result of the polls if necessary. So I want to say kudos to the youth who are really believing that change can come through the ballot.
Yeah, because if you do not effect the change cannot come on its own.
Yes.
You need to be part of that.
You need to be part of it.
All right, keeping politics aside, I want us to look at the Insider newspaper. The caption of the Insider today, they talked of presidential support for those that are going for the pilgrimage. You know, we have over close to 5,000 pilgrims who have left Cameroon for Hajj in Mecca, and this has been like a ritual. Is this ritual necessary at this point in time? Does it mean that if the support does not come, they will not go for the religious journey?
Madam Ekbe, we all concord that we should not tamper with anyone's faith, belief. But some of us are against the politicization of belief.
Yeah.
When the government gives incentives or
Yes,
support
1.5 billion.
yes to
Kept
the
aside to
to the
facilitate
Muslim
the problem.
faithfuls. We have the belief that it's a way of buying their consciences, especially when it comes to the vote cast
vote
during
cast.
elections in Cameroon. Whereas it is against the fundamental doctrines of the Quran and even the Bible for one to act out of duress or because you think that somebody has used coercive means for you to act, whereas you know for certain that person is not supposed to be at the place where he is. We think that this government's largesse ought to be for other denominations too, because let us take for example that Christians are not always going on pilgrimage. We've not seen the government done some gestures even to build churches for other Christian denominations who are not on pilgrimage. You understand what I'm saying? We must not necessarily go on pilgrimage before the government shows that the philanthropic, because this is a philanthropic gesture. It is not enshrined in the constitution of a nation that the government should sponsor any denomination, because Cameroon is a lay, it's a laik nation.
Yes, it's
like
just the
they call it.
largesse of the head of
It's
state.
the largesse of the head of state. We will expect him to extend it to other denominations. But like I told you, I don't have any particular problem. We of the CRM don't have a particular problem about that. Our problem would always be that knowing that this is the system that has plunged this country into perpetual misery and pain. We know exactly what has been happening. If you go to most regions, especially northern regions, you find children learning under the trees. You look at the conditions they are studying under. If you go even to the educational sector, you find that most teachers, you have the OTS, and then there's brain drain. Of recent, most of our soldiers deserted because of the working conditions that have run to join the war, Russia to support them in their war and all the like. We expected the government to do more, especially in these sectors, by pumping that money, maybe to boost up these sectors. But what I'm saying is, I'm not against the government sponsoring the Muslims to go on pilgrimage.
Yeah, you know, it's a routine. He does that all the time. This time it's just a coincidence.
Yes, he does that all the time. So the only problem is that of buying their consciences. Let the imams, let the Christians, the Muslims themselves take time to dissect, to analyze, to examine, to scrutinize the operations of the system in place, and even that of the head of state and his surrogates, his acolytes, those who are closer to him. And let them tell us vividly within their hearts and at the depth of their conscience, as they will all answer on that dreadful day of judgment when the secrets of all hearts shall be disclosed. If certainly the system in place needs continuity, or it should be brought to an end.
You know, if there are some people that are glued, I'm a Christian, and I know if there are people that do not joke with their faith. Yes. I don't joke with mine, but the Muslims, I respect the Muslims, because you see them even with their prayers.
Yes.
If they have to pray, they respect their time, and I don't think somebody's conscience will be bought. It's a mere coincidence.
That's why I said that they, no matter the largesse of the head of state,
yes,
the system in place which he incarnates, because it's at the helm of the Supreme Magistracy, they should take time and examine if this system merits to be supported to continue, especially when the right time comes. And what we want from the Muslim is also to encourage them to get registered massively and be able to express their free will, their choice of to choose whoever they want, but then taking into consideration the comparative advantages that the entire nations will need to benefit from such a choice.
All right, we are bowing out. We are going into our last newspaper, which is the Herald Tribune. The Herald Tribune says critics have given 300 reasons why President Biya should step down. The next coming elections, you know, it's newspapers headlines. Now, I wouldn't be putting you in the place of the Herald Tribune critics. You are a Cameroonian and you are the CRM party. If you have 3 reasons why you think the head of state should be bound out of stage during these elections, what would that be?
The constitution that is in place doesn't give me the audacity, the effrontery, or even to express my view with a certain degree of alacrity by saying this person should bow out.
Okay.
If I were to say something, I think that we of the CRM have always been for the motion that the electoral laws should be fair and transparent in such a way that whosoever that is invested by a political party and is beaten in the polls should be ready to go back on retirement. That's why we've been asking President Paul Biya to ensure that the electoral system in place, starting from the board chair of ELECAM to the Constitutional Council and other relative facilities like the governors, the dues, and other like that are partners into the organization of election. We've always been saying that let them work for the interests of the nation. Whosoever the person, the people have decided that he should be their president through their sovereign will, their determination, their desire, such a person should be allowed to govern this nation. So President Paul Biya, we know quite well, is an old man. If you look at his recent physical motions and displays, you understand that, honestly speaking, at his age, if I were his son, not as a politician, I would be telling him, Daddy, it's high time you left power and then be at home to rest. So we enjoy you. He's been in active service, public service, civil service, excuse me, at the age of 22, if I'm not mistaken, at the age of 22 has been President Paul Biya left from a civil servant. He was director of the civil cabinet, from there to prime minister. Today he is president for over 42 years. It would be foolhardy, wicked for somebody to say at 92 years he should be supporting him. So I think it's but a noble duty for an evangelist who I am, I'm a jurist, to tell Daddy it's high time for you to go on retirement and rest.
Take a rest. So we have looked into the papers. I want you to look straight into your camera and tell Cameroonians, give a word of hope for Cameroonians, because it's in a few months. October is just by the corner. What should Cameroonians, how should Cameroonians carry themselves as we await this period?
Madam Egbe, if I want to talk to Cameroonians, I would like first of all to thank you for giving the opportunity to look into the cameras and talk to Cameroonians. Cameroonians, I'm talking as a special advisor to Professor Maurice Kamto. The CPDM, with all its fabulous means, has been unable to crush the CRM, not because the CRM is a very big party, but because the CRM is a spirit, is a vision, is a nation, and the president of the CRM stands tall because of his moral integrity. He says the people should be ready to stand for justice and not for injustice. So it's time for all Cameroonians, by and large, to introspect, ask themselves questions. Who among the candidates that will be going in for the 2025 presidential election has what it takes? And you would bear in mind that we must walk beyond ethnic and tribal affinities. Let us not judge anyone from where he comes from, but let us judge the candidate based on their moral integrity, their academic prowess, and their track record. Thank you so much.
Once more, Mr. Tifu, thank you for honoring our invitation. I will hope that in subsequent editions you are always going to create time for us to exchange on important matters concerning Cameroon and, of course, the world at large.
Thank you so much, Madam Ebe, for inviting me. I would like to use this opportunity to thank God Almighty, who has given us the grace to be alive, and God willing, if He has to renew that grace, we will be together.
Once more, ladies and gentlemen, it is on this note that we call it quit on today's edition of Well in Print. Like we said from the start, Well in Print is your bi-weekly program where we take you on a tour of news headlines as reported by newspapers around the globe. It has been a pleasure to have you this morning, and of course, I want to say thank you to the technical team for their undying efforts to make sure that we have the beautiful images you have today. And of course, stay put, don't go anywhere, for Pan African Media is beaming live as I go down the step. Wishing you all a pleasant week ahead.